Hey, before we get into the episode, I wanted to let you know that my book, Melanated Midlife, is available now on Amazon and Barnes& Noble. This is the manual that you have been looking for so that you can design a midlife season exactly as you deserve it. So get a copy for yourself and then share it with other midlife baddies that are in your circle. I can't wait to hear what you think about it. All right, let's get back to the episode. Hey there, if you have ever had this question in the back of your mind about whether or not it was too late to shift careers, then I want you to stay tuned to this episode. My guest today is Dr. Andrea Bonner, who is a division chair over consumer arts and sciences at Houston City College. And within that program, she manages a lot of different areas. They're all creative, and she spends a lot of time really just coaching people that are coming through the fashion world, the culinary arts world, the hospitality world. And she herself landed there after a whole other grown up big girl career in healthcare. So she went from healthcare to the fashion world, academia, and is just achieving her doctorate degree as she is turning 55. So if there is ever an inspirational story that you needed to hear about it not being too late to go and do your thing, then take a look at Dr. Bonner's story, and I dare you to walk away and not be inspired. So let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Melanated Midlife Podcast. I am your host, Akilah Willery, and I have a very special guest. Dr. Andrea Bonner is here to lead me into a far more fashionable state of mind because I met this very interesting lady at an event where I was coming out of my comfort zone to learn more about fashion and beauty. And I just told her right before we started recording that I went there as, one of my solo dates to go and learn some new stuff and get out and do some fun things. And she started telling her story about how she did not start out wanting to be in this fashion world. She actually started out someplace else. So, of course, my business, my mindset, shifted completely. And I was like, she's got to come and talk to you guys. So, Dr. Bonner, first of all, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Willery, Akilah, but thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Now, I'll give a little bit about you because you currently are serving as the division chair of Consumer Arts and Sciences, Consumer Arts and Sciences Center of Excellence at Houston City College. And this is where you are basically in charge of the strategic vision for fashion design, fashion management, merchandising, culinary arts, pastry arts, hospitality, which of course, Houston, I know hospitality is a big industry right here in this city. But what got me was that you ain't from that world. You are originally from healthcare. So you're a healthcare corporate girly. And then you made this transition into this fashion education and leadership world. How in the world did that happen?
Yes. People ask that all the time whenever I say my background, and I'm like, I didn't start in fashion. I started in healthcare, and they're like, healthcare, fashion, like, how did you get there? And I shared a little bit of this that night when you and I met. We're not generally, although I wasn't discouraged from studying fashion, I would say most people are not, whether we're black, white, whatever, we're not encouraged to study fashion. Anything artistic, we're not generally pushed towards. You're pushed toward, being a doctor, teacher, lawyer, business person. So my major in undergraduate was just business administration. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew, at that time when I graduated in the 90s, 1993, from my undergraduate degree, I just knew I wanted to get out and get a job. That's all I knew. Get a job, making money. You had a certain amount of money in mind. You just wanted to get a job. Well, while I was in college, I started working part-time. I would come to Houston every break, like holidays, weekends, over the summers. And I started working at Kelsey-Seybold Clinic. Everybody knows Kelsey-Seybold. You see it around town. I was like a customer service, patient service representative, started working there. So when I got out of college, I had that experience on my resume. And one of the first first jobs I got was at HMO here in Houston doing provider relations, which is where you go to doctors' offices and make sure that they know all of the things that they need to do to be providers for a particular insurance company. So that was how I started. And I went from that job to the next job and advanced in healthcare, moving up through marketing and business development type roles through the years. So that's really where I got started. And it wasn't, I didn't hate it, but through the years, and I don't want to get ahead of based on your questions, I kind of got a little like, this is not where I want to be. Like I can do it in my sleep, but what else is really out there for me? So I probably did that for 20, again, I'm dating myself. I already told you what year I graduated from college, 22, 23 years. I did that. And probably those last 5 years, I started thinking, what else is there for me to do? What is it that I can get up every day and feel like I'm not really going to work? Cause I felt like I was going to work every day and I was getting tired of that. So then I transitioned.
I love that. I love that. But yeah, I wanna take a step back because you dated yourself, and I'm glad you dated yourself because I need everybody to understand. We are that Gen X group where our parents did teach us to go get you a good job. And that good job meant that you were going to be someplace with whatever title, work your way up, and just kinda stay there for a couple decades until they sent
Mhm.
you off with a nice retirement party, a pension, and that was it. That was all we were expected to ask for in life. But you're here in midlife and I'm curious. My question that I love to ask my guests is what does midlife mean to you?
Midlife means so many things to me. I think you mentioned Dr. Bonner. As an 55-year-old, I'll be 56 this year, year old woman, I decided 3 years ago that I also wanted to get my doctorate once I was in education. If you are going to ascend in education in any type of higher leadership role, you have to that's the standard. You have to have that degree. And as we say, we've got to at least have that to compete with the others, with everyone. And it wasn't just that. I was looking for programs and I landed on the program that I really that just spoke to me. It was an interdisciplinary program with people from across disciplines. And I got my doctorate from NYU. And I was like, "What in the hell are you doing?" I don't know if I can say hell on your thing, but
Oh, yes,
why
honey.
are you yeah, why what would make you want to get your degree at 55 years old? And I actually didn't get my master's degree until I was 48, 49. So again, you mentioned corporate America. Corporate, you didn't have to have a master's degree or a doctorate degree. You just got a degree and you worked your way up the corporate ladder. And like you said, you got your pension and all those things. But I'm going to get to the answer to your question. Midlife, how I got here, and I didn't mention early on, was I went through a series of layoffs in corporate America because I was always that
Okay.
middle management, marketing. If we're cutting, we can do away with marketing. If we're cutting, we can do away with this department. And went through, I want to say, 4 layoffs and one company filed bankruptcy. So I went
Wow.
through that over the course of those years to the point where it's like, one, I wanted some stability, but and the last role I had was very stable, and I really enjoyed it. The last company I worked for, but that was kind of my experience in my career. But midlife means for me doing what I want to do, what I feel like I should have done years ago that I was a little afraid of. And honestly, not so much afraid of, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think there were some times I just didn't know what I wanted to do. It was like, again, you get up, you go to work, you make your paycheck, you pay your bills, you do the things. But I'm like, okay, for these last however many years that God is going to bless me with on this earth, I'm going to do what I want to do. And it's meant going back to school. It's meant narrowing my circle to people that are really important to me versus all of the, extra people that you have, hanging on or the things. So it's meant just being happy, and happiness is even though I feel like I almost killed myself in school, happiness meant going back to school. Happiness means being around people that I really enjoy being around, doing the things that I really love in doing, and just really being intentional about things. As I say to people all the time, and I try to live like we don't know, tomorrow's not promised to us. So I really am
True.
trying to be intentional. And when I have those days where I feel like it's a wasted day, I'm like, oh, I didn't do what I was supposed to do today. I try to kind of come back and reflect on what can I do better the next day so that that day is more intentional, that I get something out of it. I hope that answered the question.
It absolutely did. And I am thinking of the person that has tuned into this episode right now that just heard you say all of these things that you've accomplished at the beautiful age of 55, where just as you said, tomorrow is not promised. We know that we have more days behind us than we have ahead of us. But I don't think that we seriously sit down and contemplate, like you said, some things that maybe in the past have been put on pause, or maybe it was just pushed down the priority list. And you woke up and decided, okay, not only am I going to go back to school, I'm going to go back to school in two phases. I'm going to do this first bit now for the master's. And yeah, I'm going to keep on going and do the doctorate. And I am in a field where it's kind of it sounds like it's very broad and wide open. So you could almost at this age just dovetail into so many different areas that you're currently leading. So I am curious because one question that I did ask you previously was about menopause.
Hmm.
And for you to be at the top of your career game, and I mentioned the word menopause, your exact quote was, "What in the actual hell?" was what
Hmm.
you said. So
Yeah.
please, my dear, can you make us understand how are you balancing all of this between top of your career and dealing with this speed bump?
Yeah, menopause was definitely a speed bump, and I was raised by my grandparents, my grandmother, and I remember a time when she got really mean, and if somebody said that about my grandmother right now, I would be like, you lying. My grandmother was never mean. She hung the moon, blah blah blah." But I remember that time, and I lived between my grandparents' house and my great grandmother, who was two doors down. And I would spend the night at my great grandmother's house because she didn't like to stay by herself. But I remember talking, like being a pre adolescent, and screaming like, she's just so mean. She's mean. She won't let me do this. She da 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 da. And now I think back to the fact that she was going through menopause at the time, and that hit me during menopause hit me during COVID. Not only did I
Mm,
go through all of the symptoms of anger, not understanding, like, why am I feeling like this? Of course, the hot flashes, all the changes to your body. I gained probably 25 pounds. I went to bed and I woke up and my pants didn't fit. And I was like, what happened? And that's why I say what the actual hell, because I'm glad there's more conversations about it now. There's doctors and there's podcasts, and there are other things that are going on, conversations around menopause, but they didn't talk about that back then. Our mothers, our grandmothers, they just said they're going through the change. That's it. What does that mean? We didn't know what
yeah.
that meant. They're going through the change, all of the things that go on with the change, and there's medical things that go on in our bodies. I think I am coping. I won't say I'm on the tail end of it because I have help. I'm on hormones. I got on hormones, and my doctor, you hear the horror stories, like, don't get on hormones. They're bad for you if you've got health issues and conditions. And I'm not a doctor. I would tell everyone, you've got to talk to your physician about that. And if that works for you and your health history and all of the things. But my doctor broke it down for me, and she was just very on, this will work for you. Let's start off at this low dose. We'll monitor it every year, if you don't feel right. So women, speak to talk to your doctors about it. I actually, in addition to my doctor, and I'm, coming from healthcare, I'm pro finding the right doctor. I'll say that much, because I went through a couple of doctors. So finding the right doctor, but I also went through a company, and I won't say the company, I saw them online. I'll just say that much. And the practitioner from there was a nurse practitioner, and they focus on women's health. And she was excellent at like breaking down what was going on with my body, with my mind, all of the things. So, ladies, if you are experiencing these symptoms and you don't even know what it is, because I didn't know what was going on at first. I'm like, am I
Yeah.
going through menopause? I think as a woman, I was still, having my period and those things. But then I'm like, but something's happening. Something's not right. So I'm glad to be, I'll just say I have my days. I might have a personal summer here in a minute and you might see my forehead glisten, but I am in a good place, I think, right now. But I will also say I lost a couple of relationships, a friendship and a relationship. I went through a breakup during that time. And I think it was because I was, it was me. A lot of it was me.
Really?
And they were, I think one person kind of understood after the fact, but the other person was, and then I was like, but I've never been mean. I've never been, snapping at people and doing those things. And, a couple of relationships suffered because of me going through menopause. And also I won't put it all on menopause, but just starting to reflect on some ways and that I had that were not, working for that other person. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my menopause story.
No, I mean, I think you might be the first person that I've heard say that very honestly, that relationships suffer in
Hmm.
this, depending on how outward I don't know, your coping or your, the things
Hmm.
that you just kind of start doing. We talk about with men having a midlife crisis, and I absolutely hate that terminology, midlife crisis.
Yeah, me too.
But it's like, with us, you're right. I think as I don't know, like my girlfriends, my circle, and I have a couple of circles. So I have my day ones. These are the people that have known me since elementary school. They've seen
Hmm.
every pimple on my face. They've seen
Hmm.
every boyfriend I've ever had, every flop. And then I've got my adult girlfriends, friendships that I've made as a grown, mature adult, where we actually have shared more professional struggles and things like that. But I can say that just echoing something that you said, that there are some things, some relationships that were a little lighter and superficial, so to speak. And that makes it sound so negative. But there are
Hmm.
some relationships that I was able to retire more definitively once I
Yeah.
knew more about who I was. The ugliness of going through menopause and struggling, sometimes struggling outwardly, sometimes struggling privately, it made you realize, okay, all this extra and impressing people and all of that, it made you kind of shrink down to what's most important just to you.
Hmm.
Folks can think this, they can feel this way or whatever. I'm just going to, very quietly retire from some of these expectations in these relationships. It doesn't make anybody else the bad guy. It just makes me more clear of what I need right now. Yeah. But I
Indeed.
also,
Indeed. It was an enlightening time.
yeah, and that I think that's probably the best thing, enlightening, because you learn, I feel like you learn a whole lot more about yourself than anything else. But with thinking of, I'm still thinking of you being at the top of your career. And I'm saying top of your career. I mean, you just got a damn doctorate. So no, you are still on an upward trajectory. So let me pause and correct myself here. You are not at your peak. You are still climbing in this era of your life. So, I mean, what has shocked you? What has just where have you blown your own mind with what you've been able to do with these different transitions and phases?
Just that I was able to get through this degree, like I defended actually in January, and a lot of people give online programs a bad rap. They're like, oh, they did it online, but we were online and we were synchronous, meaning we had to meet 2 days a week, 2 hours each day on camera, present, answering questions, involved, doing assignments. And I had it was an accelerated program. So I had 2 classes per term. We didn't stop. You went straight through. That's why we were able to get done in 2 years, but it's back to back. And I was, at the end, and I always tell people, and I was telling a couple of friends that were finishing up the program and other people that are doing some similar things. It's like, we don't, and someone told me this, like, did you stop and pat yourself on the back? Did you stop and say, you did that, girl. Like you did that. And some days I would just sit there and look, I won't well up here, but it's like, damn, you really did that. Like you
Yes.
went to work and you said, like, I have 5 departments that I'm responsible for in addition to, that's at HCC, but then we also have dual credit classes with students that are in high schools as well. So I have a lot of responsibility on top of, but I would have to leave on the days I had class. I'd be like, okay, guys, I got to leave by 5 o'clock. I had to be home by 6 o'clock. Sometimes I wouldn't, by 6 because classes started at 6:30. I had to be present and do the things. So, I'm proud that I was able to push myself through that. And I didn't really initially, and I may have said that the night when you and I met about imposter syndrome, because my therapist, who I'm a therapy advocate as well. My therapist was like, there's not imposter syndrome. Like, stop saying that. But
Yeah.
that thing that charades itself as imposter syndrome, we get it. And we're like, I'm not smart enough with all of these younger kids. I call them kids because some of them could be my children. I'm not smart enough I'm not as smart as they are. I don't have the same credentials. They've done these things in this big haughty career and I've changed careers. I'm doing this. It's not as weighted as their career, but I had to remind myself that I was accepted into the same program as they were, and I was in the same room as they were, and it was for a reason. So, I'm proud that I was able to push myself through that program. And to your point, I love my job, but I'm also looking to advance in not just fashion. Fashion is where I got my break into education, and I'm so grateful for that because I started teaching adjunct fashion classes. That's how I got to HCC. And then, I became a program coordinator. Then I became a division chair. But I look to maybe advance to something, well, not maybe, I look to advance to something where I can really have more decision making power on what the students are getting, the services that they need, the supports that they need. Because in my research, I found that our students, African American students, face a harder time. And I'm at a community college, but the research shows it's across the board, whether it's, financial, whether it's the responsibilities that they have with family and home. I had 2 single fathers that were in their 20s that were raising their children that were part of my research. And you don't see that on, I'll say,
Yeah.
other demographics. You don't see that a lot. So I hope to be able to have an impact on education and educational policy to make it easier for
Mhm.
not just our students, for all students.
I'm curious. I mean, even though you have worked your way up in this type of program, do you see people our age just getting started in this area? Really?
Absolutely. In our programs right now, I can definitely speak to fashion and culinary. We have a lot of, and I'll say older students, being they're not 20, they're not 18. I have students, several veterans who have served, men and women who have served in my sorority just had a fashion show this weekend, and one of the students who is in our fashion program is a woman veteran, and she decided she wanted to study fashion. We also have a young man who is a veteran, and he is studying fashion, and a lot of people in our culinary program who wanted to go back to be chefs. And I see, whether the good thing about community college is that you see the demographic from 18 all the way up to 65. We have physicians in our programs. We have lawyers in our programs. We have former engineers in our programs that, going back to what I said initially, they weren't told that they could study being a chef. So you're going to cook, you're
Yeah.
going to, that, I could hear somebody's mom. So you're going to be a cook, or you're going to study fashion. Yes, that's what I really want to do. So I see a lot of students that are just coming back to school to do what they really want to do. And that's what I love about community college, is that we provide that really accessible route for a student to come back to school or start over if they've never gone to school and not feel any type of way about it.
That I mean, just sitting here, I mean, I know that I'm supposed to be thinking of the person that is listening, but I'm listening. And I was
Mhm.
just like, well, shucks, I feel inspired to dig a little bit deeper and see, do I want to become a chef? I mean, just I don't
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds fun because, you're right. It feels like because it's right here in your backyard that you're not making a really heavy commitment. You get to kind of explore something without going all the way deep into the pool just yet.
Although, look, I'll correct you there in a little bit because one thing that people do think about community college or now we're city college, but community college or 2-year college is that it's easy.
Mm.
Someone was talking. I go down a rabbit hole on Instagram sometimes, and I'm in the comments, like reading the juicy comments, like, "Ooh, they said this." Da, 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 da. And somebody made a comment about someone like, well, they've only got a community college education and this, and this. Well, let me tell you, some of these community college students get out making more money than we do. Trust me. In a lot of the industries,
Mhm. Mhm.
HVAC, electrical, even in fashion and culinary, they get out making a really good salary. So, but we are a college. And I think a lot of people that come back think it's community college. They think of it kind of like a leisure learning. And when they get in the program and they see the rigor, we have some really strenuous rigor in our programs. And they're like, wait, I just thought I was gonna take a little cute little sewing class. And they get in there and mid semester they're failing. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, this is rigorous the same way if you were to go off to FIT in New York or SCAD or any other school or any of the top culinary schools, it's the same rigor. We produce the same level of, we've produced Project Runway contestants, we've produced James Beard chefs, all of those things. So, yes, you can come back, but you're going to have to do the work the same way that you would have to in
You
any
got to
other
earn
program.
earn your way through it.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Absolutely.
okay, challenge accepted. I'm laying it out there for the people that are watching this to check out some aspects of the program that might be intriguing to them because it
Yeah.
feels like if you are a creative mind that there's a little something in here for those people, especially if
There's
you're late in life discovering that you're a creative person.
Absolutely. There's so many things out there. Like I played piano growing up, but I stopped playing when my piano teacher passed away in high school and I
Oh,
lost it up to I know the notes and things like that. So one thing I was like, let me get through graduation and kind of kind of relax a little bit, but I'm going to take up piano again. We have a whole performing arts arm of our college that, I'm going to start taking, a class at a
nice,
time here and there to kind
nice.
of get that back. So there are tons of options out there. And I mean, you're talking about midlife and these things, but and I don't necessarily yes, I want to plug where I work because I think it's a great place. But whether it's here, someone may see this that lives somewhere else, which I know your audience is vast, that go to find out what's going on at your local community college or city college or whatever, whether it's, that or any other program, because now is the time to do it. If you get
Yeah.
that, if you keep thinking about it, like, I really want to do this, I really want to do this, just do it. Just do it. Just
Yeah,
jump
yeah.
out there and do it.
If you've got that gnawing at you, I truly believe that's something speaking to you saying, "Hey, you
Mhm.
need to start investigating what is this thing that's calling you." But I wanna kinda, transition a little bit because I know, of course, you're in the education space, but
Mhm.
I got to see just a glimpse, a handful of the students that have either been in the program or graduated from the program at that event, which, by the way, this event was a fashion war, basically a honoring Black History Month. I know that was part of the theme. And
Mhm.
then it was an all well, I guess it was intended as an all-female kind of social event.
Mhm.
So when I went, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet on this episode, but I went to this event as a solo date. I do a lot of solo dates these days. And shout out to my husband for not making it a big deal because I purposely choose things that I know he don't want to hang with me to do. And so this was one of those things on my list for the month. And so I went there to listen and learn. There were some which I first off, I need to plug 2 products or 2 companies that I just want to give a shout out to. I love supporting women-owned, black-owned businesses. So I learned a little bit about Lamique Cosmetics and Uncle Funky's daughter,
Mhm.
and these I knew that there was a Houston connection, but not as deep as it actually was. So I want to give shout out to these ladies that were sharing their stories. But I went there, of course, listening and learning, brand new to doing my own makeup, 2 years in. I figured out like 2 or 3 things, and I have just been rocking those 2 or 3 things the best I can. I need
Hey,
to
if that
learn some
works.
more. Yeah, but I got at this event, we're all sitting listening to the ladies that are on the panel. And I think you guys recognize some of the students that have either been through the program or are
Mhm.
currently in the program. And so I'm checking out what they're wearing. I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't look scary. That looks like
Mhm.
something I could take off the rack or whatever. And
Well,
so I'm curious, educate those of us like me, total beginner, still in my 50s, trying to figure it out. How do we come to our personal style now? I mean, do we need to jump in and do the scary, couture things, or do we just find a look and we just keep flowing with that?
well, how I started in fashion was as a personal shopper and a stylist. So, as a stylist, you have people that come to you and they're like, Andrea, I want to change my style completely. I had business women who wanted to upgrade their style. I had people that were just like, I just want something different. And it's psychological because when you go into one thing I do when I go into someone's meet with them, I go into their closet. Let's look at your closet. What do you have in here? Let's take piece by piece. And people don't want to give up that casual corner suit from 19. I don't know why, but they're like, "Oh no, you can't take this." And I'm like, "When was the last time you worn it? If you haven't worn it in a season, like within the year, it's time for me to take it out." So people say they want to change their style. They don't always want to change their style. But I would say at this point in our lives, and I've always been a big fashion girl, but you've got to find what your first, it's comfort for us at this age. Breathable fabrics, because as
Mhm.
I mentioned earlier, we might have our own little personal summer.
Mhm.
This top is not so breathable, but I wanted to be presentable today for your guests, but it's okay. But finding something that's comfortable, and there's tons of inspiration out there. And what I love about social media these days is there's so many influencers that are our age and they show you how to put looks together that don't seem intimidating. Like it's jeans and my go-to is jeans and a blazer and a pair of either sneakers if I'm traveling or if I'm going somewhere, pumps, a nice belt, designer belt if you want to, jazz it up a little bit, a t-shirt. I love spending money on my accessories, jewelry, those
Mm.
types of things. But, buy the basics. I always tell people if you have the basics, you can look really pulled together. Blazers, good jeans, nice blouses, a scarf if you're into scarves, good jewelry, those types of things, and building things around that. And you would be surprised. You will put on jeans and a blazer and people be like, "You look so nice." And I'm like, "I just have on the jeans and a blazer." But what people see is a pulled together look.
Mhm.
And again, for us at this point, I don't have a lot of time to be thinking about what you said couture. And not a whole lot of people, and I always say I'm not in your pocketbook, but a lot of people don't have couture money. But there are ways that you can still look that elegant, look that pulled together, look that chic without spending couture money or custom money. Everyone doesn't have to go to Bergdorf's or Neiman's or whatever to buy a dress. You can buy a nice dress from anywhere, from any department store, and, kind of create your own style. So long answer to your question is think of what you feel comfortable in and what do you feel good in. Like I love dresses. I feel like a dress for me, I don't have to think about a top and a bottom. I got an outfit all together.
Yes.
That's my look, a dress, and or 99 blazers, not that many, but close. I have a lot of blazers and slacks, easy. Then I have the jeans and, dressy jeans, dress down, good clothes, Think about what your lifestyle is. Do you travel a lot? Chic travel clothes, things like that. So you got to consider your lifestyle. You got to consider what you like, what you feel good in, what you feel comfortable in. Don't be afraid to go out there and look for. I would say if you see an influencer that you like their style, you don't have to copy their style verbatim, but you can pull some things from them. They may, have a way of wearing scarves and you're like, I never thought about wearing scarves. Well, you might try it and it works for you. It may not work for you, but I always tell people to also don't be a copycat. Don't I see an influencer online and then all of a sudden I see Akila. She looks exactly like this same person. She's copying everything that
Yeah.
she wears. They're their influencer. They're there to influence us and a lot of times sell products, but you've got to develop your own style. And if I look at you, I can tell that's Akila style versus she pulled that from someone else. You
Yeah.
won't be able to pull it off.
I'm very curious, but like for yourself, for what you are doing as a
Mhm.
I assume that you're like a walking billboard. That is my guess. Is that in this world where everyone is basically wearing their creativity, and
Mhm.
is there ever a time in this space where you're just like, okay, I kind of want to just let it all hang out. I don't want to be put together today. Because I
Mhm.
am very much I feel like I'm misrepresenting my natural self where I am the yoga pants and t-shirt and baseball cap girl most days working from home. But
Mhm.
does it ever get exhausting to be looking good?
It can because sometimes I feel like even though I'm not an advocate for and I don't want this to turn into we go sideways to the wearing bonnets and in pajamas out, show because I'm not for that. But sometimes I look at them, I'm like, I wish I could just walk out the house and not give a damn. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to have to think about that. But because of that, I have a few things that I can pull that are easy. Like I said, like t-shirt dresses that are a little more structured. I've got the
Ah.
cutesy tennis shoes. I do still wear a baseball cap sometimes. If I won't wear a bonnet, but if my hair, which is poofy and flat at the same time right now, it natural, I will have it pin curled up under my baseball cap with my thing is I always have a pair of earrings on. So no one knows that my hair is pin curled under my baseball cap, but I still look kind of pulled together. So I've found that I can run out of the house uniform and not have to put on the blouse or the blazer
Mhm.
or those things. So you've got to find what looks good for you. For what that is for you. It could be a t-shirt dress. It could just be a t-shirt and some jeans. Or a sweater and some jeans or something to that effect. But finding those things. But yeah, sometimes I just want to be like, I just want to run to the store and grab my grapes or grab my water or whatever. And I don't want nobody to see me. And I'd be damned if every time I go out looking a fool, somebody
Yes.
always sees me. Or I
That
think I look a mess, or I don't feel as pulled together. So I have those things that I'm like, the times that they've caught me, these are the things that I'm gonna wear when I go out so that I don't look a fool. Cause again,
no.
to your point, I am a walking billboard. So if someone says, Dr. Bonner, is that you? Or, oh, you're Andrea, you work at ACC. Oh, you're over the fashion department or, whatever. Mention I'm in a sorority. I'm in links. I serve. We're always representatives of whatever, whether it's an organization that we're in, whether it's ourselves first, our families, whatever. So I'm a big person, but I was taught that way. I was
Yeah.
taught to growing up, and we didn't have much, but the kids at school was like, you always dress really nice. So my grandma would not send me to school looking any kind of way. And same with you. And I'm sure a lot of your guests, like we had, even if you didn't have a ton of clothes, you had your church clothes, you had your school clothes, you had your play clothes, and you didn't wear
Yep.
your play clothes to church and vice versa. And again, you may not have had a lot, but you didn't mix those things up. So I was just always taught that when you walk out of the house, you're speaking to who you are. And
Yeah.
that's a reflection of who you are. So I try to always represent, even when it's a t-shirt dress.
And you just mentioned something, and I'd never thought about it being generational, but you're right. That was exactly how it was separated. And I think we took so much care in the school clothes and the church clothes because we didn't have a whole lot of it.
Mhm.
So, whatever it was, I mean, you had the special outfit for Easter, you had the special thing for, certain occasions, and they looked nice and crispy every, week into week. As long as you could still squeeze into it, it was taken care of. And
Mhm.
yeah, when you went, you're outside. You said play clothes. I said outside clothes. Because
Yeah.
because you would come back inside and they'd be like, "Oh, you smell like outside. You must been playing,"
Mhm.
that kind of thing. But yeah,
Mhm.
you're right, and I feel like almost like because we come from that generation of I don't know. I know not everybody's story is the same, but you're right. Those humble beginnings where what you did have, it was very precious to you. And we protected it. So we made sure that it was going to last. And
Mm.
my parents as well, we didn't struggle, but we were very solidly
Mhm.
lowest working class.
Mhm.
So I always tell, the story. I said the bills were paid, but there were not two pennies beyond the bills being paid.
Mhm.
It was a Wieners layaway at school clothes shopping time, and then that
Mhm.
was it. And we might get something real special at Christmas, but those clothes were supposed to last that entire year. So, it was the jeans were about this much too long, rolled
Yep.
up so you could grow into.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it was, I didn't have any name brands for a long time, but, we made sure that it was looking nice, but, that's my little trip down memory lane. But I wanna
yes.
look forward to you. I wanna know, I mean, you've now achieved this big accomplishment. Doctor Bonner is sitting on top of the academic food chain, but I have
Well,
a feeling that that's not all for you.
yeah. Well,
What else
and
is
I
coming?
as I mentioned, I'm not quite on the top of the food chain. It sounds like it being over 5 departments, there are a few levels above me that I hope to get to at some point when God says the same. So I always say, I'm happy where I am. Obviously, I'm looking forward to growth, and when God says it's time, then that's where we're gonna go. I didn't share, and I will share if you'll allow me.
Sure.
During this journey, I had a major, I call it a punch in the gut because it felt like a punch in the gut because my career trajectory kind of in education has been, I was adjunct, then I became full time. Then I got a, program coordinator. Then I became the chair. So the next level is a dean's level. And in the fall of 2024, I applied for a dean's position and I felt really good about that position. And I absolutely did not get that position. And when I say I was, as they say, in a fetal position behind it
Mm,
because I was just like, what do you mean I didn't get this job? Like that's where I'm supposed to be. Like that was supposed to be my job. And one of my work friends, we were in the same role. We both interviewed for the same job and she got the job. And she is now
mm,
my boss and she is a great boss, putting that plug out there. But that was hard to navigate, like not getting the position that you wanted or you thought you wanted at the time. And not long after that, like after I got over the initial shock, I did recognize that that was not my job to have. That was her. And
mm,
as I told her, I said, God makes no mistakes. You got that job because you were supposed to have that job. I was not supposed to have that job, even though at the time I felt like I was. So that the past few years has been it's been hard. Like it was, school. And I always tell people, you look at people and you think they've got it pulled together and she's in school at NYU. Oh, she's this and da 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 da. And they don't really know all of the things that are going on behind the scenes. So there will be some setbacks, but you have to trust that one of the things that they said in our doctoral program, and we used to say, we're so tired of them saying that, trust the process. And it
yeah.
really is trust the process, trust the journey, trust God that He is guiding you where I always say I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Now, I have to do my part and I feel like I'm doing my part. I'm doing the things. I'm working hard. putting it out there. He knows the desires of my heart, but sometimes, don't let those setbacks take you out. Cause I was just like, you know what? I'm done. Why am I even doing this? I didn't get this job. Woe is me.
Yeah.
It took me a minute and some, my friends, my support system, God, my, therapy to try to get me back on my path to say, okay,
Yeah.
that wasn't for you, but let's focus on this. You're trying to get out of school right now. Cause then I think back to, had I gotten that job and still
Hmm.
been in school, would I have been able to perform to the level that I would have wanted to perform,
Right.
that our students would have needed. So I just wanted to share that. So if you if you hit a road bump, you got to keep going. As hard as it is, cry, cuz I cried,
Hmm.
cuss, do the things,
Mm.
get
Hmm.
the support, have a support system. If you've got a support system, that's really important. But it's going to be okay, because I feel like it's coming. Whatever that next big thing is, it's coming, and I have just had to teach myself patience because patience is not my strong suit. So I've had to tell myself, just chill out. God, I always
Yeah.
say, tell people all the time, God knows where you are. He knows where to find you. He sees what you're doing and he's gonna work it out. So
Do you
that's
think
that's my 2 cents on that.
do you think you could have had this evolved reflection of those trials in your 30s versus in your 50s?
Oh
What
no.
would have been the difference?
No, 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 no. In 30s, I still think I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted. I was just going to a job every day. I didn't, like I said, when I got out of school initially with my undergrad, I was just glad to be out of school. I wasn't the best student. I was a mediocre student, but I was just happy to be out of school and get a job. And in my 30s, I think I was still trying to find my way. And everybody's path is different. I know some 30-year-olds that are driven and they know what they want and they're bam, bam, bam. That's not always everyone's path or their story. And that's okay. It's okay if you just
Yeah.
figure it out at 50 or 55 or 60 even. They're going through all kinds of life transitions. And it's okay if you wake up tomorrow, you can say, I want to do something different. I want to start over. I'm not happy in this career. I want to do the thing. So absolutely not. I didn't know what the hell was going on in my 30s. I was enjoying life, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was unhappy. I don't think I realized I was unhappy in my career at that time, but I wish I knew, you say, if I could go back, I wish I could go back. And
Mm.
whenever I'm talking to my students now, I try to impart some of that wisdom on them. Like, girl, don't settle down right now. Like, no,
Oh,
no,
yeah. Yeah.
he's not the one at 24. I promise you. But for
Oh,
some
Lord.
people, but some
24
it
sounds
may.
like a baby now.
But no, I didn't know at 30. And I always say, I wish I would have some, and I still have those bouts of, I wish I could have done this then. I wish I could have done more then, but our path is our path. And
Mhm.
I'm just grateful to be where I am now. That's all I'll say.
Hey, I appreciate that. I really do because and I'm gonna make some assumptions based on you saying that impatience is not a characteristic that you have. I've seen that that is common with high achievers where we're kind of used to getting the next thing. We're kind of used to landing. We visualize it, we do it, we land where we feel we're supposed to.
Mhm.
And then when you have those bumps, when you have that whether it's a rejection, if it's a no, you can't have this, it's hard in the moment to say, okay, I am a failure. I am terrible. I didn't deserve whatever. Instead of thinking, no, that's a redirection.
Mhm.
That wasn't yours. Doesn't mean anything negative about that or aspiring for that. It wasn't yours. So we're going to definitively pull the shade down on this
Mhm.
particular goal and we're going to redirect you. And so I can see that now in my 50s, but in my 30s, oh no, I'm having a temper tantrum on the floor.
Oh yeah.
Screw the person that got it in place of me. I
Mhm.
didn't want to work with y'all anyway, type
Right.
of attitude. But
Right.
yeah, no, I see exactly what you mean because this is often hard to see beyond what's right there in front because we think we want that. We think we deserve that. We think we've earned that.
Mhm.
And I have to remind myself the same thing. That wasn't yours. It
Mm-mm.
just simply wasn't yours. And there's something else now in my age old wisdom, I'm able to say, oh, this wasn't it. Okay, so I need to keep looking for whatever that thing is.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you sharing that perspective because there is somebody watching this that needs to hear that message right now. There's nothing wrong with
Definitely.
you. That just wasn't yours.
Wasn't yours. Listen, some days I still am like, cuss, like, damn, like, why the hell but then I'm like, Andrea, come back again. It was not yours to have. It was hers, or it just wasn't yours. Just keep
Simple as
moving.
that.
So yeah.
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 Wow. Well, I have learned so much from this conversation and I know that there are people that are watching this that are saying, "Huh, I need to dig into that." Or what did she mention? What was the name of that program? So, please for the folks that are watching this right now, let's give them a rerun. Can you let them know number 1 how they can learn more about the program that you are over? But then any place else that you might be out there professionally and they just wanna maybe learn more from you.
I'm the division chair of consumer arts and sciences at Houston City College, and you can go to hccs.edu and you can type in any of the programs, whether it's fashion design, fashion management and merchandising, culinary arts, pastry arts, or hospitality. You can type those in, and there'll be more information on how to get how to get enrolled in the programs, just more information about the programs. Other than that, I'm not doing a lot. I work a lot. That it's a very demanding job, like I said, which I love. Coming off of my doctoral program, I'm just now starting to get back out there. It's funny because my advisor messaged me the other day and she was like, "We need to write a book." And I was like, "Okay, I've never thought about writing a book." But she's always said that, I need to, whether it's write a book or be speaking on, the disparities that are in higher education, the obstacles that students deal with. So that may be on the horizon. Again, I'm coming down off of being in school and trying to figure out what those next things are. I'm looking forward to whatever they are. Um, and who knows? The sky's the limit. That's all I'll say.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to seeing that book. I'm just putting it out into the universe that when your book comes out, I'm gonna look forward and make sure that we have you back so you can talk about it.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me and this really important conversation. And I'm glad to from meeting you at the event. Thanks for coming up and introducing yourself, first of all. And I didn't know about your podcast, but I'm glad to know about it now. And I will, outside of this episode, of course, share it with friends and others that might be interested. So thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, your story was an important one to share, so thank you very much for being here. For anybody, if you are watching this and you are all excited about the program that Dr. Bonner has mentioned, I'm going to put that link in the show notes so that you can easily access it. But more than anything, as she mentioned, please share this with anybody else in your midlife circle who is looking for inspiration of how to do whatever that next thing is. We want to be able to widen the conversation about doing you in this season and making sure that you understand number 1 is not too late, but you probably are your best version of yourself to be able to do whatever that unfinished dream is. So, thank you again for watching. Thank you for being a part of this community, and we will see you next time.